What is good, Ninja? OG over here from PlayerEssence, and welcome to the PE Nintendo Switch and Gaming News video. Today we've got a lot of great information for you guys, a lot of stuff on the Regginator because he was interviewed and there's just been a ton of stuff that he said. So let's go ahead and get over all of this information. We got stuff on the NES Classic restocks, we've got stuff on meeting Switch demand, Legend of Zelda DLC as far as the date goes. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So the Nintendo Switch stock has been an issue since the system launched, although it is getting better. It is undoubtedly improved, of course, but it's not quite where it needs to be, especially in Japan, where the situation is really frustrating for a lot of customers with these lottery lines and all this other stuff. Now, in an interview with The Verge, Nintendo of America President Fils-Aime commented on the Nintendo Switch supply situation again. Being unable to meet demand is something that he's not very happy with, and he says that Nintendo is working hard to satisfy as much demand as possible. Here's what Reggie had to say exactly. Quote, "Whenever we launch a system, we place very high expectations on ourselves. I wish we would have more hardware. Our inability to meet demand is not something that is satisfying in any way, shape, or form, and we're working hard to satisfy as much demand as possible." Now, Reggie also said that Nintendo has adjusted its supply chain in order to make Nintendo Switch more readily available. He expects that we'll hear more when Nintendo announces its financial results next week, with President Tatsumi Kimishima commenting on the situation. Reggie also had a few words to say about last year's Nintendo NES Classic Special Edition fiasco, which will return in 2018. He had this to say to The Verge, quote, "We know that there are many consumers who want that system and have not been able to purchase it. Certainly, we're not happy to see the reseller prices on that system, and so we're bringing it back. And bringing it back in significant numbers is something that's important to us." So, just so you guys know, the whole thing with the NES Classic is that there was a big debacle with that. Nintendo did not produce anywhere near enough to meet demand, and then they said, yep, we're not doing it anymore, really to make way for the Super Nintendo Classic. Now that the Super Nintendo Classic has tons of units, they're shipping out more, and everything's going to be good, and they're going to be shipping that throughout 2017 and into 2018. Nintendo's going to bring back the NES Classic, and they're going to make sure that they have enough stock. A lot of people didn't trust Nintendo when it came to this whole Super Nintendo Classic thing. They thought that you wouldn't be able to buy one, that it was going to be the same situation, even though Nintendo said multiple times that won't happen, and they never said such a thing before the NES Classic launched. They never said that, hey, we're going to have a ton of these things, and everyone's going to want them, but we're not going to meet demand. They never said anything like that. But with the Super Nintendo Classic, Nintendo was very smart about it. They said, hey, we're going to try to do as much as we can. They said that we're going to have as many, like, pretty much shipped on day one that we did pretty much the whole, like, entirety of the NES Classic, and we're just going to make sure that it gets out there, and that's exactly what they did. They proved a lot of people wrong. So when they say that the NES Classic is coming back and it's going to be a lot more volume than before, I believe them. When they say that they're going to be improving the supply chain to get more Switches out there, because I've seen a lot of Nintendo Switches myself when I go to different stores. I see them there. They're still, like, not like, I guess, in huge quantities, but they're still out there. Like, if you drive around, if you don't see one in one store, you'll probably find it in the next store, unless you live in Japan, then the problem is really bad there. So they need to really make sure that they work on Japan a little bit more. I know that they're just trying to satisfy as far as the demand goes for the US, because that's the biggest market. But yeah, man, we'll see what happens as far as the supply goes for that. But what do you guys think about this as far as the NES Classic coming back in 2018? Give me your thoughts in the comment section below. Alright, and moving into the next article here, the Regginator has a lot to say when it comes to the Zelda DLC as far as the date. That's going to be coming soon. Classic games for Nintendo Switch, Miiverse closing, and My Nintendo Rewards. Let's go ahead and get into this. There's a lot of stuff to go over, and Kotaku are the ones who caught up with the Regginator, Nintendo of America President and CEO, the Regginator, who touched on a whole bunch of topics in the interview, including the release date for Zelda DLC and everything that I talked about. So let's go ahead and get into it here. So first, here's what Reggie had to say about the new Zelda DLC. He said it's still coming this year. We will shortly be announcing the date for that content, so I would not lock and load on November 10th. So it's not necessarily November 10th, but they're going to announce a date pretty soon here. On GameCube controller support for the Nintendo Switch, and here's what Reggie had to say, in our latest system software update, it enables third-party peripherals to work on the Nintendo Switch. As a result, the peripheral for the Wii U that allows it to attach GameCube controllers also works. I think it's fair to say, Stefan, that that peripheral working was as much of a surprise to us as it was to consumers. That's interesting. Reggie, on classic games for the Nintendo Switch, we're gratified to have some of the best content ever created be unique to Nintendo platforms. We're also gratified by our community that they want to play this content. What we've said is that there's going to be some classic content that's part of the Nintendo Online proposition. We've said we will unveil more about the proposition next year before it launches. it, as far as NES/Super NES Classic, doesn't preclude it releasing classic games in other ways. So there's what he had to say on that. Now on Miiverse, on the closing of Miiverse, that is, Miiverse was a great community. It was something we thought would be integral to the Wii U proposition along with Nintendo TV. Unfortunately, the Wii U didn't scale the way we had hoped it would, which makes continuing those services financially challenging. They're all linked. From a service, architecture, and delivery standpoint, it's linked. Once we made the decision for it to be concluded on the Wii U, it meant we would be concluded for 3DS as well as the viewing service on your PC. And finally, he gets into a point that a lot of people have been asking about when it comes to the lack of My Nintendo rewards for the Nintendo Switch. There are unique elements coming for the Nintendo Switch. We'll be announcing those in due time. We do believe having a strong loyalty program for all of our products is important, and certainly our fans appreciate it. So he gave us kind of the corporate answer on that one, the runaround, which a lot of these kind of were. But it was interesting to see him talk about this, especially with the Nintendo Switch GameCube controller support. We can talk about that first before we get into the Zelda DLC. Reggie said that it was a surprise to him that the GameCube controllers work too, which I'm not necessarily sure if Nintendo of Japan would tell them, hey, GameCube controllers are working. If they wanted it to work, they would just do it, then they just find out. Although maybe he did know, maybe he's kind of bluffing on that one or playing coy because he doesn't want to give any type of signs as far as like a GameCube Virtual Console or like a Super Smash Brothers game. So something tells me he's playing a little bit coy on that one when he says it comes to a surprise. Or maybe he's telling the truth. Heck, Nintendo of Japan can be unpredictable at times. Now, when talking about the Zelda DLC, yeah, it's still coming this year. I just don't think there's any need to talk about it at this point, right? They already said that's coming this year. They have a ton of content that's going to come out before the Zelda DLC. You have a lot of third-party games to talk about. You have Super Mario Odyssey that's pretty much out for most people. By the time you're viewing this, it's going to be out for most people. People have been playing the game. You're going to have Xenoblade. You're going to have, like I said, a ton of third-party Doom and Skyrim and all these other games. Why talk about Zelda DLC that's probably going to be December anyway? There's no need. Get the games out that you're going to talk about first. Let people play those, and then we'll talk about Zelda DLC when it needs to be talked about. They've already said that it's coming out this year. I've already had a number of people tell me, is it delayed or is it something going to happen? I'm like, no, you don't need to hear about every single thing at every single day. Like, they just talked about it pretty much at E3. They showed off the amiibo and all of that, so it'll be fine. Now, the closing of Miiverse, yeah, that's something that anybody could have saw coming. Obviously, it takes financial bandwidth and space to run Miiverse, administrators, all that stuff. Why are you going to continue to spend money on something that's failed? Miiverse failed. The Wii U obviously failed. Everything that's tied to the Wii U failed. When it comes to the Nintendo TV and the app they use for the video chat, why keep all these services and continue to spend money, like Reggie said, financially challenging when nobody's using it as much anymore? Heck, nobody was even using Nintendo TV while the Wii U was still the main system for Nintendo when it comes to home console and also 3DS. What's the point at this point? Why? When Nintendo Switch, the classic consoles, smartphone, and mobile, those are doing so much better, and it's just going to be easier for Nintendo to manage. So that's not a surprise at all. People were sad, and I was like, I haven't used Miiverse in like years. Like, it's way too slow. You have to get out of your game and boot it all up. It just takes forever. The webfront Miiverse was cool. It just takes way too long for Miiverse on the Wii U, so I stopped using it. And the 3DS is even worse. So yeah, I wasn't really worried about that. And as far as the My Nintendo rewards, I'm wondering when they're going to do it. I'm guessing that it was going to be at the end of the year or maybe even next year once the online starts up, and maybe they even tie in something like that. So we'll have to wait. So I'm guessing, to be safe, probably 2018, we'll start seeing some actual rewards for the Nintendo Switch when it comes to My Nintendo. So what do you guys think about all these topics here as far as what the Regginator had to say? I would love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. Alright, Ninja, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We've got Facebook, we've got Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Really helps us spread the content of PlayerEssence across the interwebs in addition to YouTube. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon page, pledge any tier, be entered to win some awesome prizes. Plus, we have Discord voice chat and prize eShop tournaments for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Splatoon, and so much more. Also, make sure you check out our brand new YouTube live gaming page and consider sponsoring PlayerEssence. When you do so, it works just like Twitch, so you can earn custom themed emotes and get an exclusive badge right by your name in the chat. It also gets you on my friends list to participate in tournaments. So check out the link in the description below and consider sponsoring PlayerEssence right here on YouTube Gaming Live. Also, make sure you hit that like button if you did like this video. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.